Okay. Clicking the go live button and everything it says we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jello Manga Book Club, Patreon exclusive. You paid 500 Zeus to be here. We're the bodies you get. Congratulations. I stole that joke from chat.
Yam is here this time.
Yam is here this time. Yeah, and I think I have the heights accurate to the person. Unless Yam is...
pretty much.
Yeah, unless Yam is, like, taller than Jello. I don't want to make myself look too small, so here I am. But no. Honestly, probably one of the best things we've read on the book club. Which isn't saying a lot.
Overall, I think, yeah.
Overall, yeah. Like, because, like, Dungeon Meshi was good. One Piece was One Piece. But Pluto was actually, like, competently made by an experienced person, which I feel like is not something we've read so far.
Yeah, this one...
I could be here to jump on that one.
Yeah.
This one definitely has the benefit of being made by an established mangaka who had done other good work in the same genre before, which I like Dunmeshi fine, but it does, and it gets better very quickly, but it does start rougher from a manga creating perspective, and then One Piece falls off really terribly, so nice to have a good thing.
Yeah. I'm hearing everyone 3 times. I think that's on your end, homie. So, like, you know, I'm not your boss. Very weird reading experience. I don't know. I had no idea this was an Astro Boy thing until like the third of the way in. I mean, like,
really, you didn't know that going in?
That's interesting, I guess, because I don't really know anything about Astro Boy, and I don't think any of us really know much about Astro Boy. Though I don't know.
No, I don't. I also did not read the arc that this manga was based on. Jello did, though.
I read it. You don't need to.
Yeah, I also, Jello's favorite character is how do you pronounce Gashite?
No, go ahead, you try.
Gashite?
My best attempt is, Gazit.
Gazit? Yeah.
Gazist.
Gashite is...
Gazist.
Bro, I'm not getting it right. I'm sorry. The balding robot, Gashite, he is... should be everyone's favorite. Gazit?
Yeah. He's the best character. Like, why would anyone else be your favorite?
Yeah. It's just... I look at him and honestly, I'm gonna be real. I looked at the manga and I saw that he was the main character like a long time ago, and I was like, I don't know if I'll like this. But that's because I'm stupid, and I think he's amazing. And just such a strong emotional core to the entire series, this entire like manga, that it's just like I'm like, damn, this guy is absolutely the fucking best. Epsilon's my boy. Apparently, because I read the official, because I have like the physical. They gender Epsilon as a boy, but in Jello's, what Jello read...
Only one time they gendered Epsilon as a woman, and after they had gendered him as a guy once before, so I was very confused.
Yeah, we read the same source. I liked that when Epsilon showed up, I was like, is this a boy or a girl? I got no idea, let's find out. And then they changed it.
Yeah.
So they're they, them now. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, Foxel saying, I assume this is in response to Gaziked. He's a G, and after he dies, I definitely cared a little less. I will say my least favorite part is definitely the last third, where it's mostly like dramatized Astro Boy energy shit happening, where I'm like, yeah, all right. I miss my boy. I miss him so much, Tails.
I miss him, yeah. Someone said, let's see, I thought Epsilon, wait, what was I reading? In the Astro Boy arc, I think he was a boy. Yes, but that wasn't Epsilon. Epsilon in Astro Boy is apparently this, like, woman robot, and they just used Epsilon's name and put that in that role. like put like him in that role when it was just like a different name and the source. I don't know. They were just
that character gets adapted very differently in different stuff.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name, but that character as they exist in Pluto for sure exists as a guy in the Astro Boy arc. Yeah, so hard to know where to start with this one. I kept saying to Aloha, I was like, yeah, with this series, it feels like I can really feel the moments that were in the original Astro Boy out of nowhere. And then
KKK.
I was like, this feels a little weird. And then I read the original and I was like, no, actually, a lot more of the stuff I assumed was silly shit being adapted from the original was actually new. And there were a couple, I checked a couple things. Like, I was like, where did Brow come from? And they were like, oh, that's an extremely loosely adapted version of another Astro Boy character from an unrelated arc. And I was like, you know, I could sit here and try and hunt down what every piece of inspiration for every character was if they had original Astro Boy shit, but frankly, I don't want to, so I just didn't.
Yeah.
So I really digged this because as someone who has partaken in a lot of fan fiction in my day, this is like the genre of fan fiction where they take the source material and they're like, all right, we're changing the setting, we're changing the vibe, the mood, character origins. We're basically writing a whole new story, but we're ripping like character names and descriptions from another media and doing whatever the fuck we want. And those are so fun.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what reading Pluto felt like to me.
Yeah, no. Like, it was just like, because I read the first 6 volumes, like, just, like, straight, like, in one day, and then I finished, like, the next 2, like, the next day, right? So, like, I read through it, like, pretty, like, in quick succession, I guess, but, like, the start, very strong. It's Jello said it where it's just like he loves like do robots a dream of electric sheep stories, and I'm very much the same of just like I
they're good.
It's and it's just it takes like very basic like mystery tropes, but it's robots, so I like it 10 times better. Where it's just like the detective talking to the like famous murderer in jail, Hannibal Lecter style, like to learn what's happening, but it's robots, so I think it's doper.
Yeah, I love Hannibal Lecter Brow 1859 or whatever that was.
Yeah, like
he's fucking pro ZD in the anime, and he actually does a pretty good job from the one scene I bothered watching.
Yeah. Like, I'm definitely interested in watching the anime afterwards, but it's just that I think they segmented the story like pretty well. Obviously I've seen it in chat, and I think the same thing. The ending gets sloppy, but it's just like endings are hard, as all things, and so
yeah. So of all, I can talk about this in depth later. Of all the things I was like curious to see what came from Astro Boy that they felt they had to see, I was like, this ending must be from Astro Boy, and it is. It is. That part is just all the way from Astro Boy, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Vixen is Brando's wife in the anime. Okay,
that works.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Vixen was saying that last night or something. I couldn't remember, like, they said they voiced a character named, like, Millie or something, and I was like, I know that's somebody's wife. I don't remember if it's Brando's wife or Adolf's wife, or it's somebody's wife, but it's still cool.
The people talking about the, I was DMing that to Aloha while I was lonely in my screen cap jail, and I was like, this, I don't think I've ever said this before because I'm such a economy and storytelling guy, but I screen capped the Scottish blind composer and North #2 arc, and I was just like, this could literally never come back, and these two characters could be in 3 chapters and never show up again and not even die, and I would still consider this an extremely worthy addition to the story. It's really good.
They didn't really come back up. It's
yeah, they didn't really come back.
Yeah, I mean, like like North died, and he was one of the robots, but like he's definitely the least important in terms of like the ones people talk about. But like, I love that.
His story is really just more of a vehicle to explore robot humanity, I suppose.
Yeah. It's also a great like dovetail into because with the first robot victim with Mont Blanc, they're like, everyone loved him and he was like a peaceful mountain guy, and you later learn he was also conscripted into the war. But like North number 2 is the viewer's first like, hi, I'm an explicit war vet with robot PTSD, and I am a war machine, and I am not even modified. I just cover myself up with a cloak, and I basically want to learn piano to stop hearing the screams. And like, it's a really great, like, oh wow, this is pretty heavy. And then the next like 5 robots are all like, we were all in the war, and then everyone's like, Epsilon's a bitch because he wasn't in the war.
I really like seeing the construction.
I mean, the humans were like, Epsilon was a bitch. I feel like the robots were more sympathetic to them. They were like, you picked the right choice, which was don't go to war.
Yeah, like it's the thing of like seeing everyone's reaction to Mont Blanc and just like, oh yeah, it's just he's achieved the goal of affecting life outside of the war and being such like a peaceful figure, and the fact that like this one died first is very like tragic, and it's just, you know, but after that it's just North number 2's whole entire segment was just so like, God, it really hooked me in a way that I was just like, this is just the core of the entire like series right here.
Yeah, it's a really good, like it would make a great one-shot manga actually.
Yeah.
The Heracles weren't they all in the war? They were both in the war.
Yeah, every single robot except for Epsilon.
I think they're saying Heracles wasn't in response to all the robots were kind to Epsilon like, for not conscripting. Heracles came around. I think in the beginning he was like, you're fucking
but like after he'd been through war, he was like, maybe you had a point actually.
Yeah. Like just Geshai's like entire like deal with just being a detective robot is very interesting, because like designing a robot to do that, and I feel like one of the great things about it was just how he wasn't out of date, but like there were robots more advanced than him and better at his job. I love
that scene where he meets Adam, and like I love how scary Adam is, where Adam's like, I'm a little boy, but is just better than literally everyone at everything. And Yasika's just like sees him enjoying ice cream, and like there's so many good moments when they meet where it's like, did you look at that snail because like it just caught your eye, as the humans say, not because you were identifying it as Snailococcus roundoshellus or whatever. And he was like, and then he's just like, he responds automatically the way he would normally respond to a child because he's good with kids, when it's like, oh, I can't show you the murder data. And Adam just stares at him. He's like, oh, right. You have more advanced AI than I do, so you might be able to learn new things. Okay, yeah, I guess you're better. You're just objectively better than me because you're a later model. Here, try and solve the case. And that's so sad.
The bit with the snail is one of the parts that I screen capped for my own notes, because I was like, wow, that's really interesting. The best parts of this manga is just the exploration of humanity versus robotics and what the differences are, and then the answer pretty much being not really enough to really make note of actually at this point.
Yeah, the big difference. The big difference is that robots like aren't programmed with emotions, but can, or like, you know, to the same degree, but like can learn them, and in many cases fake them until they become real. And like, I really like that.
And it really coincides well with there's a line that Dr. Tenma has where he says, oh, we don't create AI. AI isn't created, it is raised.
Yeah.
So, and that's true of humans too, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's, what was I gonna say? It's this thing of, there's so many small details in this manga that I really enjoy, right? About the robots and everything, about how, when Kishai's talking to the guard who's guarding, like, the Hannibal Lecter robot, right? And it's just like, you guys, robots are so advanced, I don't know if you're human or robot. And Kishai's like, well, there's one neat trick, right? And it's just like, he brings up things like robots can't lie, and robots have efficient movement and don't do like silly little gestures. And throughout,
I love that, yeah.
And then throughout the manga, you can like just simply see just humans having some exaggerated gestures, and then robots not. And slowly, sometimes that changes, right? It's great.
I also love the eventual reveal that I think his actual name is Abula.
Yeah.
In the official translations, though in the version Yam and I read, he was Dr. Abracadabra,
he was Abracadabra as a fake name at the start of the manga for me, but then was like revealed to be Abdullah.
So I just ended up calling him Dr.
Funny.
Abra because that was the least stupid sounding name in my head.
You see, I didn't know he had an alternate name. I was just like, yep, this is what happens when you try and make a seinen manga after a source material that is aimed at children. You'll be talking about like the ethics of, you know, robotic AI and dark themes and shit, and then Dr. Abracadabra walks into the room.
Yeah, and is obviously the villain. But like I liked the amount of robots being confused, and he's like, oh, of course you wouldn't know that I'm actually a human with many robotic components. And I like that. I actually think they did a good job in that regard, genuinely tricking me, because I did think he was like a weird cyborg, which is, he might as well be. But I like the moment where it's a good fake out when Gesickt meets him in the bazaar and is like, I finally clocked you as a human because I just noticed you lied. And that's great because he isn't a human, but he is the same kind of robot as Adam is. Yeah. So like they're essentially, there's no difference anymore.
Right.
It's just like it's just seeing stuff about just the robots integrating in society, and like having older models around is really interesting when it's just like they're next to like Adam or Giant, and then you just get the maid lady who's just like an old classical like robot, and it's just so interesting. And especially with like the line of just Giant wanting to alter the maid lady's memories and shit, her being like, nah, I just want to keep him in my memory, it's fine even though it's painful.
Yeah, I love the go ahead.
Just speaking of that maid lady really quick, I really like the scene where Gesickt shows up and he's like, because her husband had died in like a case he was working on. Yeah. So he shows up to her and he's like, I'm sorry, your husband has passed away. And I don't know if you can show this on stream, but these are the panels, and it's just these three like exact same panels stacked on top of each other. Is like, this is this woman reacting, like this is her grief, her reaction to the death of her husband, and it's just the same. And then she goes on to talk about it, and it's like, it's very clear that she's mourning him, but she's not advanced enough to convey that to humans. And it's just like, man. And they do that a couple of times too. Like there's a point later where you get a flashback about Gesickt trying to solve like all those child murders and of like child robots. And we have like a human couple who had their robot child murdered, and they're like sobbing and crying. They're like, holy shit, that's my son and he's dead. And then you have a robot couple like standing next to them looking at the body of their child. And they look over at the human couple and they look at each other and they're like, oh, this is what it feels like to grieve. Yeah. I understand now. And you're like, oh my God.
That also becomes, because I think the idea of do you want to forget gets brought up, I think, at least twice, maybe 3 times after a character loses someone. And that's like a major theme in the series of like, Dr. Tenma can't forget Tobio. Yasik's wife refuses to forget him. And fucking, I love that he is asking this maid robot, like, hey, would you want me to delete these memories? And she's like, please don't do that. And it's great because chronologically, Yasik has already had his memories of his own child's death deleted, and when he learns, he becomes very upset by that he was forced to forget that.
The interesting thing is that it's apparently like illegal to alter robots' memories like that, but Jello offered to do that for that lady, right? Already showing some sort of semblance that he's broken free from what robots are meant to do, right? Even early on in the series, due to him empathizing with this robot, but not really understanding that he's already experienced something like this.
I almost never felt like Yasik, as we saw him in the present, was tied to like always taking human orders or whatever. Because, I mean, again, before the series started, he already broke orders because his son was killed and blew up a human. So like as we know him, he is already frankly just a guy in the whole series.
God. Yeah. The whole build-up for all that is just so fucking good.
Oh my god, the slow realization of when you finally understand why Gesickt murdered Adolf's brother, it's just like, oh.
Dude, my favorite thing is that like even the robot KKK was like, man, Adolf's brother was an asshole, and all he did was kill children robots, but they were like, even that is too much for us.
Right. There's so much to say about that whole arc. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting like politics going around. I love that when Adolf's wife finally confronts him, like after he confesses everything.
Yeah.
And she's like, why do you think this guy killed your brother? He's a robot. They can't kill people. It's impossible. And also, even if it was possible, it was just your fucking brother. He was a horrible person and deserved to die.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, he's a robot. He doesn't feel emotions like we do. So if he deemed that guy worthy to die, it was like divine justice, basically. So I don't get why you're so fucking mad. And all he can say is that, like, yeah, I agree. My brother probably deserved to die, but not by a robot. And if you think about it, yes, he did. Yes, he very much did deserve to die by a robot specifically for his exact crimes.
Yeah. God.
I mentioned this too. I think one of the easiest things to get wrong with a series that is the robot, like these themes, and the best example of a high profile thing doing this wrong is Detroit Become Human, which is the figuring out what the systemic like differences in the history were and why people might like or dislike robots. And also, I love the immediate wide breadth of opinions people have on robots present in the series. I was honestly kind of like if it was going to be worse, I was expecting like Mont Blanc to die and all the news to be like, he was a hero, and people be like, whatever, he was just a robot. But like immediately, the people who are preparing his funeral are all like crying on the job because they're so sad because they loved him. And they're like, this funeral is going to be like a Princess Diana level people coming out for this, because like there are going to be hundreds of thousands of people honoring this man's death. And I like that.
It doesn't make sense in robot stories for humans not to emotionally attach to like robots, because like us as humans, we emotionally attach to just anything and everything, right? Like animals, just like, but doing that with something that's basically practically you, right? Like, you know, obviously Mont Blanc wasn't the most like giant, like Adam looking robot, but still it's just like he had heart, he had feelings, he had purpose, right?
Like you can very easily imagine a child just befriending Mont Blanc Iron Giant style and being like, this is my friend Mont Blanc, and like seeing no difference between them. And like
I mean, he just looked like a mascot.
Yeah.
Like, you know, something that's designed to be easily lovable and good for children to connect to. And also, the guy's passion was like protecting the forests and the animals, and would take
Yeah.
people on like nature hikes.
Yeah, he didn't want a statue. He didn't want to. One thing I love is he didn't want a statue built where it was because it would block the view of the Alps. And even then, Heracles had the same opinion about the stuff in like Greece and Rome and stuff, where it's just like he was like, yeah, I didn't want this statue of me built because it would block the view, but they built it anyways, right? It's
God, I actually just realized that's a really funny adaptational change, where so none of the robots have any depth to them. The original's pretty terrible. It's a 60s thing for 8-year-olds, written on the fucking seat of its pants very clearly. And the Heracles equivalent just is like, I am the strongest, let us fight. Like, that's it. It's all like that. The only one who has a different opinion is Epsilon. And he is just like, come to the Parthenon. This is Greece. We are fighting. And he just fucking destroys that monument. And like, no thoughts head empty. It's just like, I'm the best. I'm the Greek robot. It's like, it's very silly and stupid. So having the adaptation be like, I wouldn't want to ruin these views, and then they don't fight there, is a really like kind of a subtweet of the scene, frankly.
And like Brando was like such a like, I didn't really care about Brando at first because it's just like, oh, it's just fighting robot guy, you know, just like having a like normal drink with a Geshite. And it was just this connection between them, and he's like, if Pluto's gonna come for me, then I'm gonna take the fight to him. And it's just the moment where Brando dies, and the only thing he can transmit is memories of his family instead of like the useful information he was seeking.
Sorry, keep talking. I just remembered something, and I just remembered afterwards I screen capped it. So let me grab that.
And it's just like, it's the flashing life flashing before your eyes moments that humans have. And I think it's very interesting that robots experience empathy through, like, the advanced ones, empathy through this weird connection to each other in advance due to this stuff, like, together as like a somewhat of a hive mind almost, which is like interesting. But yeah, just Brando's whole entire like death, like I don't know if his kids robots or not. I think
I thought they were human.
Yeah, I thought they were human.
I'm not sure. That's another thing I really loved about this series, is that I could never tell if someone was a robot or a human unless it was very explicitly like, you know, like a trash can looking motherfucker.
Yeah. So
like I didn't know Gazix would be a robot when I started reading it, because I never experienced the original Astro Boy. So when he like changed his hand into a gun, I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So I think this is purposeful. So in the scene where you see Brando's last visions, and it's just like, oh, I can't control it. I'm thinking of my family as I die. I'm sorry. And he just dies. And then Adam is like, well, what is this? What is this last image? And it's like the death throes of a robot, and it's like a single last TV static line. Yeah, there it is. Thank you for getting it.
Yeah, I also grabbed it, and they called it, they were like, what is this? And they called it, it's the image of great pain.
Yeah.
So there's this, and then this other scene that Aloha was just showing, which is the one I screen capped, is from when Astro gets killed by Pluto. And I think that's supposed to be the same shape, which I like, but also this sort of this little interaction is just my entire impression of the series in microcosm, which is, what an interesting adaptation of this. Here's a lightning bolt that evokes the death static from Brando, or whatever his name was. Can robots die? Are they alive? Camera zooms out. In this scene, Adam fights a big evil monster made of the ocean.
Adam is a very interesting character because it's just like, it's very much of like, this is my boy. How can we make Astro Boy, the character, interesting? And it's just like, they just make him do like very Astro Boy things a lot of the time. Like, all the robots die very gruesome deaths, but Adam just kind of like drops to the floor, right? Kind of basically unconscious, which is like interesting compared to like everyone else who blew up, got shredded to pieces, and all that. Like, It's very
Part
much.
of me wants to say that might be because Adam has the body of a child, and
Yeah,
that
they might
Yeah.
not have been allowed to.
that kind of imagery is a little too far.
Yeah, I would also say that maybe Pluto, as in the person, has a soft spot for children, due to the fact of like how they interacted with Astro Boy's sister.
Right.
Yeah. But like yeah, so it's just let's see. But like yeah, also another interesting thing is like how robot marriages and everything works. Where like Jai and his wife were like, it's very, you remember Robots?
The movie?
Yeah.
We gotta make the baby. Like, it's interesting that they limit Jai and his wife to having to have a child robot that's as advanced as they are. Right? And
yeah, that was interesting.
And it seems like a lot of the robot families have kids that look like same models as them. And I don't know if that's because it like simulates the family feel more for the robots and makes it more believable from a human standpoint, right? Because a lot of robots, what they do is they act like humans to make humans more comfortable. So
and like,
maybe,
I kind of like it actually, because of that, I didn't realize the first couple flashes of their dead child you got to see that was supposed to be their child. Yeah. And in retrospect, I actually kind of like that.
Yeah.
Because like, then when you see his full grief at that, it's like way worse, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, it's like you just see it's just like, oh, he's just killing like random scrap little children robots. Definitely not Jai's own child. What did you guys think the mystery was at the beginning of the book when you were reading? Because like I thought it was gonna be some shit if it was like obviously a worst fucking manga of Jai is not actually a robot but is a cyborg, and the human side of him is Pluto. Right? Because I thought they were doing some weird, interesting things, because they didn't really ever show Jai traveling to places. So the timeline was really confusing of like where he was when certain things happen. Because it's just like, oh, they'd be like, he was planning a trip to Japan with his wife, and then he was in Japan, and I was like, oh, is his wife with him? And it's like, no, he just went to Japan early for business. But that was also when the fucking murder kind of happened around that point. So I thought there were some weird timeline shit. But For
me, I just assumed it would be a mystery where someone was just trying to kill all 7 of these specific robots. And that is mostly what it is. I have some issues with the, what's his name? Bodo, like the other robot that isn't Pluto that is evil.
Goji?
No, the big one that's under the volcano.
Oh,
Bora.
Yeah.
I was a little confused by Bora. Thank you guys, and also chat, and was confused as to be like, what does this really have to do with killing the other 7 robots? And
I think it kind of makes sense, but they never like explicitly lay it out in like clear terms. You just sort of have to intuit that's what's happening. Like everything just seemed to be orchestrated by the Roosevelt AI. Like the construction of the Bora robot, like it was all a conspiracy by like the Thracian government to basically force a war with Persia so they could expand. By the way, I didn't expect to find a Iraq War allegory in this.
I mean, hey man, like
I know when it came out, but I still didn't expect it.
I mean, hey man, there was that panel Jello posted where it was just like, there were no terrorists in that building. You bombed a building full of babies, and I just look at the camera.
War never changes, right?
That is what we said. We were just like, yep, that do be we poke. Sorry if you're in here, but someone on the One Piece thing did react to the Wano arc, and they were like, this reminds me of the stuff going on. I think it was Ukraine at the time,
yeah.
And we were like, that's a really weird take. And I was like, not to be Ukraine guy, but I mean, this is just Gaza right now. War be the same.
War be the same.
like that's
that fucking happened in Iraq too. Like,
yeah, that's definitely just like this is just a smart writer writing an accurate depiction of what U.S. foreign policy.
And then, like, obviously, it's just like, oh, the big America people found an excuse to invade like a foreign country in order for like resources and shit. You know, it's just like typical political, all that other shit, right? Even though it's just like very much, I loved how not involved the American country was with the plot because it just feels so realistic. They just stayed in their
I'm
own
okay with that for the most part.
Yeah.
I think my problem is that for me, this is a manga. This manga is great when it's about Geschichte and like what humanity really is, and also what like war can do to people, and I like all that. And I don't like. I have. Trust me, I'm #1. Make America the bad guy in your allegory shit. That's fine. I didn't like that the last third quarter, whatever it was, of the manga was now kind of this Astro Boy story where essentially it was just punching people around a volcano. And there was this other robot now that was like, this was the other thing, and we took it and hit it. And like, I was even looking around, I was like, what? Did I miss something? Like, how is this connected? And like, to be honest, the best explanations I saw were just some guy going, I think that Goji just wanted to kill all the robots involved with the war as like part of his own personal vendetta. And I was like, that makes sense. But then someone went, why did he kill Epsilon? And I was like, actually, you're right. Come to think of that. And then the other option was just, he knew that if he did this thing and it was discovered, that one of those robots would be strong enough to stop it. So he basically made Pluto to run interference. I'm like, I guess that works. They just feel very separate to me.
Yeah, and like the 7 most advanced robots in the world, and then Astro Boy's sister existed, and then there was the teddy bear robot in America. It's just there were more advanced robots than the 7 that they killed, but like,
I mean, it seemed to be they were just after anyone that knew about Bora, which is why I think the real answer as to why these were the targets is because the real bad guy was the Roosevelt AI.
Yeah.
Because it was all their plan to like use Bora to blow up the magma under the Central Park or whatever. And so he just wanted to target everyone that knew about Bora so no one would be able to like predict.
I guess my question is just like why? Like, who cares? Like, just blow up the thing. You don't need to kill all these people you've got the weapon already. Just blow it up.
Astro Boy
I get it, cool. But like, I guess the idea was that if it was found out ahead of time, then like plans could be taken to try and intercept it. But if it was more chaotic and just take out everybody, then no one will find out about my secret robot bomb, and maybe I can kill all the humans, and we'll have a robot utopia.
Yeah,
like that's how I rationalize it. I'm not saying it's like soundproof.
Yeah,
I think your rationalization is correct, but also like the ending is why I was like, I do think I need to read the original. And I guess for what it's worth, since it's only like 140 fucking pages, I could just tell people what is and isn't in there real quick in a flyover. And so it is just the Sultan, who is still around, he's just like, I am a bad guy and I want to be the king of the world, but I can't do it because I'm not strong enough. So I will make a Pluto, like my robot Pluto, who will blow up all the robots and he will be king of the robots, and then I can live vicariously through him. And it's like, yeah, I guess that's Rocky and Bullwinkle Saturday morning cartoon enough, whatever, who cares? So Pluto just goes around and meets people, and he's like, it was wild to read this after how humanized the robots were in Pluto, because it'll just be like, hello, are you someone I'm looking for? Yes, I'm Mont Blanc. Great. And he'll like pick them up and rip them in half. Like, it was very little kid playing with dolls. And then the news will be like, someone defeated this robot. And I'm like, I would use a more extreme word to describe that. Someone eviscerated this man. Someone ripped this guy apart, and North number 2 disappeared for 3 pages, appeared for 3 pages, and fucking died. Yeah, all that is an invention. But like Nord number 2 dies that way. It's very little kid. It's just like, you won't be able to beat me because I have 6 arms. Not if I rip them off. Well, underneath my armholes that you just ripped off to reveal, I've got even more weapons. I hit you with a laser. Like, it's extremely stupid.
I hit you with a laser.
The series is mostly that. At one point, because it's old 60s Tezuka shit, Astro Boy's dad is like, don't fucking go fight that guy, Astro Boy. I don't want you to. Oh. And he's like, oh, dad, like, I want to fight this guy. And Astro Boy's like, I guess I won't. And Uram, his sister, is just like, why aren't you fighting? And Astro's just like, he could just say, dad doesn't want me to, but it's an old Japanese thing. So instead he just looks stoic and bears the burden. And she goes, you're a coward, Astro, I hate you. And then she and Pluto interact like twice because she dresses up as Astro Boy and goes to fight him. And he's like, what the fuck? You're not Astro Boy. I wasn't programmed to fight everyone. I'm programmed to fight these 7 robots and you're not one of them. And they like maybe become friends. Astro, Pluto, and Uran butt heads a couple times, and there's like a little something there, and that got adapted into Uran discovering Sahad in the body of the worker in the park and them forming a bond, which was much more interesting and like also much more surreal, which I liked. And then there's basically just a bunch of other fights. They are all super uninteresting. Epsilon tries not to fight, but it's like, I guess I have to, and has a pretty similar set of fights with Pluto, except at one point they're rescuing Astro Boy from the bottom of the ocean for some reason together, and Epsilon sees a moment where it's like, I could just push Pluto into this trench where he would get stuck in the mud and die forever, and does it, and then is like, never mind, I have to back out, I have too much conscience. And Pluto's like, great, and kills him. And then the ending, so what's Astro Boy's, not Tenma, his other dad, his like the professor. Yeah, that guy. He's like in the comic, he's a lot more like, I've been captured by the Sultan, and Dr. Abdullah is just like he's basically in a burqa, like a full body black thing. It's like, who is that masked man? And why is he doing this? And it's like, I don't know. I just hired him with money to make a big robot. And then he disappears and shows up later and unmasks himself and is like, really, I'm Dr. Goji. And they're like, who is that? And he's like, you see, I made a robot named Bora, and Bora, what all I did this for is I wanted to make you a robot, Sultan, that was so strong that you thought you had the strongest robot, but then I have a better robot, and once you beat Astro Boy, Bora will beat your robot, so you will feel so fucking stupid. And it's like, okay, man, this was written by an 8-year-old. And he's like, how could you betray me? And they fight, and things happen, and basically at the end, all the robots that aren't Astro Boy are destroyed as they fight in a volcano, and it's extremely stupid. And then at the end, the Sultan's like, why are you doing this? Who are you? And Goji takes off a second mask and is like, I too am a robot. My old robot manservant. That's right. I didn't like how you wanted robots to fight all the time, so I thought I'd teach you a lesson.
By making
I've learned the lesson. It's like, bro, you wanted to teach him the lesson to value robot life by creating 2 robots designed to murder 7 other robots and then killing those robots? I don't know about this one, Chief. So that, they all, obviously the Abula Goji and secretly Goji as a robot all got adapted in a more interesting way. But the shit with Bora just being like, secretly I made another robot to beat you up, like, I would have cut all of that, to be honest, but like, I see why he wanted to keep it because it was the climax, but I do think that's the part where I was like, this has the most adaptation couldn't quite fix it stink on it at the end.
Someone says, I kind of love how little Pluto focuses on actual fights early on instead of focuses more on the tragedy and loss from the aftermath. That's because it's like the horror movie like thing where it's like don't show the monster kind of deal, right? Where it's like you can't show the fight without showing the monster for the most part. Like they did it once with like Heracles, but like you can only do it once before it's like stupid, right? Like so that's pretty much how it is.
I loved how much of a scary big shadow thing Pluto was.
Yeah.
Very scary. I also loved how the fights were usually like 2 panels, and it was like, the tornado is here. I'll go in the tornado.
Yeah.
They're dead. No.
That's another reason I like stuff like Golden Kamui, because I like things where there are fights, but they're really brutalistic. Because like if you're actually just fighting, you really only need to get hit once badly to die or be incapacitated. And I like that this series did that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. This is like a small thing. In my version of the manga, in what you guys read isn't like this, but in my version, there's no double page spreads. Yeah.
There weren't many in the version that we read. I think there was like maybe 3 max.
Yeah, but like mine didn't have any, so there was none of those awkward fucking page splits that I always complained about in like One Piece. And even like the last panel where it's like all the robots in the sky and everything, I've seen versions of it where it's a double page spread, and my version is just a single page.
Interesting.
Which is neat. Yeah, it's I like that. And also my physical version, which I don't know if it's like that in the versions you read, had like splashes of color randomly. Like especially when
I love those.
They look fucking great.
I love it when manga fucking does that, even though it's like hard to do, obviously, but it's just like it just adds so much just to have those flowers have color randomly. It's like good stuff.
There were different types. There were some that were like fully colored, and then there were some that was like more advanced shading, and then one color like orange or something.
Yeah. Oh. It's the small details.
Did y'all have a particular favorite character design? No, I just love how this guy draws everybody, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just like I just love reading a manga and not seeing every character have the same nose. You know?
Right?
Like,
yeah, it was nice.
It's just while like it was hard for us to decide what our like little Fugis would be wearing, obviously. But it's like that's because it was just like all the characters were very normal, and it's just like they were more characters due to their facial features and their like existence rather than just like interesting design wise. And I think that's like really dope. And while like Brando and Hercules had battle suits, it's just like they had normal human designs that they walked around with. What did they call them?
I loved that they had those normal human designs.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's a little disappointing that they like get in battle suits, but then you finally see them actually get in the suits, and it rips their head and heart off and puts them in the suit. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fucked up and cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
They have like civilian bodies. That's cool.
I love it.
God, because obviously you can't have those giant battle robots fucking wandering around the streets, that would scare people. So it's just they gave them these more advanced bodies kind of like after the war in order to like integrate into society better. And that's like, it's fucked up, but like, you know, interesting in a way.
I like some people in chat were talking about how they had mixed opinions on the action sequences and like robot war flashbacks, and I also thought those were some of the less clean looking panels in the manga, but in retrospect I also kind of like them, because the image of seeing an armada of non-humanoid robots getting ripped apart by a robot, and that robot seeing that in flashbacks kind of gives it like a scary stress stream texture that I think is different enough from what a human vet would be seeing, but like, you know, the same symptoms, but like a slightly different flavor of cause, that I thought that was kind of cool, actually.
God, that's...
Can I bring up the memory theming again real quick? Because I really love the idea that they introduced of like, oh, humans, they have the ability to forget and perhaps reimagine. Robots don't. They can only delete and replace. And just thinking about like the very slight differences between those two ideas.
Yeah, because
and the fact that like, oh, we're all war vets that went to war, and we remember every single thing about it 100% clearly.
We can recall it right now in this exact moment. You know, it's so like I loved the I think it was Heracles. It was a flashback of him during the war and like a friend he had, and that robot like constantly washing his hands, trying to like clean that blood away. I was just like,
I was sad. He like thought that robot was Pluto, and I kind of wanted that robot to be Pluto, actually, to be honest. And like, but I love that. And I will say the fact that they can't forget is a good reason that it's like anyone who knows about Bora has to be dead, except like, I think what Bora was and what they found was probably just straight up too vague, because it was just a big graveyard of like, they have some dead robots here, but like, what about that information and the name Bora tells you we're putting a photon bomb in Yellowstone Park? Like, what does that have to do with fucking anything?
Question mark. I don't know.
God. I pulled up this panel because like you talked about it. It's where like the Adam's like newer professor, like he wanted to go fight.
Are you showing it on stream?
There we go. It's where the professor was driving Adam home when I think Heracles was dying, and the professor was just like, no, don't go. And it just like pulls up to his house. Wouldn't you rather like, and shows him his like house with his family, and it's just like, would you still rather go fight and die right now? Yeah, it's just so like,
I like how this picture of home ends up being like a horror panel almost.
Yeah. So here's my like take. Adam, I don't think is very interesting, but I think every interaction that Adam has with other characters brings out
is very interesting
and brings out the best of those characters, right? Like Jait with the snail scene and everything, and how he like they swap memory chips and he cried and all that. Like Tenma, Tenma is probably my favorite character in this series, because like from a story, like because the whole scene with the dinner where he was talking about how like Adam wasn't perfect, because it's just like, I made you to be my son, but my son was this, he hated this food, he hated this place, he hated me, but you don't do that, so you're not perfect. You know, it's just,
I have something to say about that scene and a lot of other things that I want to circle back to probably at the end, because I think it's kind of the main theme of the whole story, but keep going.
And it's just all of that is just the him talking about how Adam wasn't the perfect like robot or AI, right? And that was mostly because Adam didn't have flaws. In his mind, the perfect robot was like a human, which has flaws. And I think that's just like kind of dope as fuck. Like,
I really like the subtle hintings of this isn't uncommon in stories that have to do with advanced robotics and AI, but the idea of like, we created robots in our image and they have to like act the way that we say, and then that's usually contrasted with like religion, like God made us in their image, so we have to be like them and follow their rules, right? And that usually ends up being like robots being the inheritors of the world, which almost happened in the story,
which
I guess.
Is the entire like goal of the Roosevelt robot, right? Yeah.
So, and like, you know, clever writers will take that and they'll interrogate like, okay, what things about humanity get to survive in the next generation of beings and in like the lives of the inheritors of the world. And I like that in Pluto, it's kindness. Because I think the main theme of this story is like combating this idea of hatred with kindness.
Yeah, because
and all these humans, they exhibit so much like, oh, there's so many reasons to hate XYZ. There's so many reasons to like not like robots. There's so many reasons to not like, you know, the people in the other country or whatever. And, you know, we built all these robots as, you know, a result of our hatred. You know, we made robot cops. We like what was I gonna say? I lost my thought. Sorry.
Like every robot that was built to be a war machine to the point that they're so illegally powerful they can't even be built anymore are the characters who show the most what you would use the word for humanity. Where you see it's not allowed to fuck with a robot's memory, but he offers to the maid robot because he wants to put her at ease, and he interacts. He always like bends down and goes like, "How are you doing, child?" I'm talking to, because he's pretty good with kids. Then you've got Mont Blanc, who's like cartoonishly kind, and like Brando was like, I've decided, like, yeah, I'm the fighting king of the world. It's like, you're probably wondering why I live in like a little garbage section of the city. It's because I have adopted 7 children and I love them so much. And like everything about Epsilon is cartoonishly nice. And like then you see like all the human investigators, especially the ones in Japan, are such fuck nuts and they're just assholes. And that's actually why I kind of like Astro, because like I think he's so scary. He just feels like he has like, he's just like, this is the thing I need to be doing because I'm a robot. And I feel like he feels more like he was told rather than he learned to be a good person in a way, which I really like. And then I like that the thing that completes him is that it's just like, yes, I gave the final moments of a person's life to this robot, which is the extreme emotions are what activates like quote unquote the best robot possible. And when he made Goji, he did it with a human's emotions at death, which were rage. And we see with Brando, you see the robot's last moments, and he's like, I'm trying to tell you guys who killed me so you can kill him back and get revenge. And he's literally unable because his circuits are overcome with memories of the people he loves. And he's like, I don't know why this is happening. Sorry, guys, bye. And then the final boss is essentially defeated because Desict was a good dude and ended up giving Astro Boy the good ending.
It's
right.
Just like...
I remember what I was gonna say now. So just the idea that, or like the conclusion that Tenma came to of like, well, okay, so I've built the perfect AI because I've literally filtered every single like 6 billion possible personalities into one brain. So it's gonna create the most pure essence of humanity. The problem is that this information is so chaotic that it's going to take like basically an infinite amount of time to sort through it and come to a conclusion. So it's like stuck in an infinite loop. So the only way that I've been able to figure out to just cut through, you know, all this processing is just give it an emotion, because you know, things become very clear when you're angry, right? I was literally reading something the other day that was talking about like, you know how it's impossible to talk to someone when they're angry? It's literally because like the frontal cortex or whatever, the part of your brain, it turns off. You can't reason with people when they're experiencing intense emotions. So that makes sense. You need something like that to filter through the chaos. And he's like, that's the only way to have a robot with this level of intelligence to like wake up or whatever. And never stops to consider like, well, you know what's just as powerful? Kindness.
It's just like hatred is so easy to get. It's way easier to get than kindness for the most part, especially in like a war-torn kind of I wouldn't say it's war-torn world, because like obviously they present it that way, like, oh, the war and all this stuff was awful, even though the war only affected like one country kind of. But like, you know, it's just like hatred is just so easy to like go like, yes, I'm pissed off, so I'm gonna give it to you, rather than kindness. And I that's why I like the moment where they think Adam woke up with like insane hatred from Scheidt's death, but then he walks over to the snail and just like picks it up and does the same thing that he did earlier, and it's just like, it's so nice. Such a good callback. And especially with like fucking, what is it, Tenma interacting with Shite's wife, and that whole scene of just like, it's okay.
That's a really good scene.
That's a really good scene. I was crying.
I really love the, it's okay, go ahead and cry. It doesn't have to be real at first, and eventually it just will. And that, like, this is, I won't go into this full anecdote. This is actually a part of my fucking Jetters video I'll make eventually. But like, it's, I don't have a problem like crying or anything, but like, I know confidence is a thing. It's in that, like, that's something you like, fake it till you make it is very much a real thing, where it's just like, if I pretend to like myself more, eventually I will. In the same way where like, if you force yourself to smile, it releases just enough smile chemicals in your brain that you feel a little better. And I love the idea of that with like
robots
feeling the like figuring out how to express grief as well. It's neat. It's a good sequence.
Something fake can become real, and that's the whole entire series, you know?
I also like how all these humans built, like I said, they built these robots for violent means, but you have something like Adam, who Tenma built to basically replace his son after he died, and then he gets angry when Adam is not exactly like his son, and it's like, no, you didn't build your son again. You built, like a robot, you built something to make you happy, right? Not someone to replace a person. So like Adam, just all he knows is that I gotta make dad happy. He wants me to like this thing, then I'll like this thing. You know, he bought all these books for me, I'll read those books. You know, and then as soon as Tenma's like, well, Tobio didn't do those things, he's like, okay, then I won't do them. Like, you know what I mean? It's just kindness.
Yeah. The people talking about like, oh, everyone, like, I love that Yasit loves his wife, and like I love their relationship, and people like, it's so nice to see something in detective fiction where there's like a good and it is true. That's literally one of the pillar stones of good Columbo episodes. That's like why it's good for a lot of reasons. If the detective has people they care about, then when they are in dangerous situations, there is like stakes, because you're like, oh no, if something happens to him, we don't just lose him. Like his wife is going to be so sad, and she is so sad, and it's a fucking plot point. And I like, just like, it's nice to have a detective protagonist who's not a fucking incel. Literally, Oz and I last night after the stream, we watched the first 2 seasons of True Detective ages ago, and every man written by that writer is a yell at my wife exclusively character, and it's exhausting, to the point that in Sweetwater there's a character with the writer's name who is made to be the most divorced shitty detective of all time as a side joke, because I hate him. And we just started watching we watched the first episode of season 3 and the new season 4, and we started with season 4, which neither of us had seen, and it just like immediately starts with like 2 new protagonists who are like spitting venom at each other and like hate each other already, and we're just like, this is exhausting. It's nice to just, in a thing where it's mostly dark and it's exploring shit that is as sad as the things in Pluto are, or exploring things that are sad like child murders and whatever. It's nice to have a core emotional footstool. Foothold. To just return to be like, oh, that scene was really rough, but at least these 2 are having a good time. That's nice. Like, they care about each other. It's a really great breath of fresh air, and it also makes the darker scenes more weighty, because it's sad that Geschicht loves his wife so much, but he's always like, I am literally a robot cop. I am the most on-call person in the universe. And like, they'll be at dinner and he's just like, sorry. And she's so accustomed to it and so kind about it that makes it sadder that she's never upset. She's just like, I understand. Okay. And it's like, they want to go on a vacation. And it also makes the part, the bit where you where they're slowly realizing their memories were altered is so scary.
Yeah.
I love that scene. I love mostly how the two of them just feel like a real couple. Like, just the way they talk to each other is really nice. But that scene where they're figuring out that I think we've had our memories altered, it's just like, it feels real because like, you know, they're sitting there and they're looking at all the photos and they're like, yeah, that was so much fun. We took all these photos. Beat. We don't normally take a lot of photos though. We almost never take photos. Why did we take so many?
Yeah.
And like they both realize very quickly what has happened, but neither of them say it.
It's such a huge difference that they both realize, and it's pretty much at the same time, because you can imagine a worse manga where it's just like, oh, Gazit realize, and his wife is like, honey, what are you talking about? We had such a great time. And she's just like clueless, but it's like, they're both like, no, that's weird. What happened?
Yeah.
Fox asking, did they lose their memory of the child along with the murder? Yeah, the German government considered Gesicht such an investment because he's like a really powerful war machine and he's a really good tool,
like,
that they were like
one of the strongest of them. Like, and he's made of super material, you know?
If they learn that if it comes out that he murdered a human, he'll be put in the same situation Brow is, and they lose that asset. So to prevent them from doing that, they fucking alter his memory and his wife's, and they're like, they will just, he's literally the perfect detective robot. He will fucking discover what happened if there's any information about this event left in his brain or his wife's.
Yeah. God. And I think it's really a good testament to like how the Geshite's wife is like basically kind of almost as advanced as him. I don't think she has the weapons, but I think her AI is like equally compatible, right? That they both kind of figure out at the same time, like, oh, that's weird. I just love how in some cases it's just very clear that the robots are just pretending to be humans, where it's just like, yeah, we would take photos to pass off as like humans and stuff, but this is too many photos to like we would already have achieved that goal like 100 photos ago or some shit, you know? It's just
it makes more sense when you remember that robots have perfect memories. So what the fuck do they need photos for? Especially when they can like beam their memories to other people.
Yeah.
They don't need photographs. Can I very quickly, I want to talk about a small anecdote because it made me burst out laughing. But when they're looking at the photos, because they go to Spain, right?
Yeah.
One of the photos that they lift up and they start talking about is they took a photo in front of a church, which was unfinished. And immediately I recognized it as Sagrada Familia. For those of you who don't know, Sagrada Familia is a church in Barcelona, Spain, that as of today, right now, is under construction and has been under construction since the late 1800s. So I love the idea that it's like 300 years in the future or whatever, they fucking perfected robotic AI and like synthetic human bodies, and they still haven't finished that fucking church. It's so funny to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
The scene where the Hannibal Lecter robot reaches out and is like, hey, why don't we trade memory chips? I can be trusted with a little treat. You know, it's just so like, it's such a creepy idea that you could just hand someone over your like memories and feelings and all that stuff. It's just, oh God. And then he just enters that guy's and it's just like screaming.
And it's so sad that like, I like the implication that Adam gets to swap memories with him for the sake of the case, and then it's like, excuse me, I'm going to the bathroom, so he can cry because he's smart enough to figure out what happened to Geshit's kid.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, that sucked, dude.
Oh, that is what it is, huh?
Yeah.
Also, so like, why does the Hannibal Lecter robot guy know so much?
I honestly am not 100% sure. I think I think again, I like tried like scouring some other people's opinions online because like I like him as an element, but like I was surprised how late in the game they kept coming back to him, and I liked the very ending being him. I was like, yeah, he killed the robot,
scene.
and I was like, how did any of that happen?
How
actually,
how did he get to America? How did he fucking?
How did he get to America while crawling across the ground with a lance through him? But I think the implication is that Brow was maybe taken over by Roosevelt to commit the murder he did, because Brow's the first person who alludes to the teddy bear by going, I hear there's a really powerful robot AI that can't move its own body, and all it does is like it can take over other things. What do you think an AI like that thinks about, and what do you think they do? And I believe Roosevelt is the one who kills Gesicht, taking over Ali, which I don't understand why it is him doing that. Like, because I think I saw someone say that the teddy bear is a lot more elaborated on in the anime, but this is a manga book club. So,
yeah.
This is the source material.
I do like. I like all the ideas of the teddy bear. I just find and Brow. I just find them like a tick too amorphous. Like they don't quite fit with the rest of the story as well as I'd like them to. But
yeah,
I don't know.
God.
Wait, Ali kills Gesicht? Yeah, it was the kid from, or was it the florist? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, it was the child that was trying to sell the bouquet to him.
Yeah, he was in the bad guy country I can't remember the name of, and was somehow
Holland.
No.
He walked to Holland.
Yeah, he walked. He got to Holland somehow.
I was admittedly confused by that.
Yeah, no, there's a couple times where characters are just like in a place and they're like, we're here now, and it's like, all right.
That's why I was talking about like the timeline stuff and about how Gesicht could have been the murderer, right? Because it's just like the timeline is very like weird because they just jump all over the place. You don't see them travel. It's just they just go, oh, I gotta go here. Oh, I appear, you know. So it's just like, you know, he goes to Holland randomly, and then it's just like the little robot child followed him somehow. What are you doing here, white baby? But yeah, like, because I love it when mysteries do that, where it's just some weird, like, you're seeing the story, but it's not exactly the timeline you think it is, right? And then it's just like, you get a piece of information that makes the timeline all fit together, right? But this was not one of those. It was just, you know, this is a small irk. It upset me in the manga, and this is just the most minor complaint ever. They kept talking, but none of their mouths were open.
I noticed that too.
That was like, it's not consistent, because sometimes they open their mouths like 10% of the time, but for most of the manga, every character's mouth is closed, and I'm like, that's an interesting thing to do, I guess.
I think that's just that mangaka style.
That's not super uncommon. It's like a slightly older manga thing where it's just like open mouths do not equate to. I remember I mentioned this to you, I think, Aloha, but ages and ages ago. No, I was talking to Lenti. We were like discussing who is good at what in like cold reading fully voiced things. And I was like, oh yeah, Will's amazing. Will's kryptonite is like, Will and Aram both are really bad at visually reading through comic panels and knowing which order goes first and who is talking. Like they're very comic illiterate. And I really like mouth closed stuff because I think it's like a very easy way to show who's talking. And if you don't show who's talking, you have to be better about your layout. If you're not using their mouths. And I think this mangaka's got really good layout. So I don't know, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I did, when I noticed it, I had like a theory. I was like, oh, is he doing something where, because I noticed like sometimes like Gesicht or something would open their mouth, and or like other robots. I was like, oh my god, is he doing like this meta thing where like the humans are more likely to keep their mouths closed and therefore seem more inhuman every time they talk, and contrasting it to the robots that open their mouths when they talk, but no, it's just.
Yeah, I was looking for something.
It's not,
like that.
but I thought that would have been cool.
Chloe says robots have their mouths closed a lot more while humans have their mouths open.
Yeah,
that's
I found
it was pretty
for.
even.
Yeah, but it was it looked pretty even to me. Yeah. Because I was looking at all the robots' gestures and stuff ever since Gishite mentioned that robots don't make unnecessary movement and stuff. But yeah, it's just like I think it's just like not a storytelling technique, but it's just a thing that they do. It was just like I was like me and Yam with a microscope, just like looking at it, like yes, please tell me your mouth symbolism.
I was doing that with a couple things in the beginning because you know. I was expecting some deep shit coming, and it definitely did, but not always in the avenues that I expected. For example, I love names. I think when people name characters, it's usually very purposeful, and I usually like to look up name meanings or like origins and stuff. So I was like, this robot is named Mont Blanc. Why? And the answer is because, you know, there's a mountain in the Swiss Alps named Mont Blanc.
Yeah. North number 2. Why?
Yeah. But
I mean, they're just like, the names of the robots from the original.
Yeah.
I know, but like that's the answer. But I was like, maybe there's something that you can still do to like maybe connect a deeper meaning. So it's like, Mont Blanc is like the name of a mountain. It's also the name of the dessert and stuff. But I was like, I also recognized it as the name of the ship that was responsible for the Halifax explosion in like the early 1900s. And I was like, oh, are they doing something where like there's a hidden like destructive meaning in all of the robotic names? And then I looked up like Gesicht is German for face, which is interesting. Heracles is really self-explanatory, but then I stopped at North number 2 because that means fucking nothing.
Dude, it's North number 2, bro. Don't you get it? Yeah, like another complaint I kind of have is that while this is a mystery, as a viewer, I don't think you can solve the mystery early. Because there's like a lot of like sudden reveals and twists that you can't really predict, and even the manga itself throws you off of it intentionally. Right?
Yeah, it's a mystery, but I don't think the draw ends up being the mystery, because the draw is just Gesicht is a cool guy. And also, the first time Abula shows up, he's like, hello, I'm Dr. Good Guy. So you're like, okay, I think I know who the bad guy is. And someone earlier was like, I think the Goji Abula, alive, actual, real Abula, Bora, and Pluto, and Sahad, I think there's a few too many ingredients in that soup. It's a little too confusing. And I do agree. And I do think Bora should have been cut entirely, because it was so stupid in the original manga. But like, I think it should have just been, because like that I'm gonna blow up the volcano part, like that wasn't in the original at all. I think it should have just been another thing Pluto was gonna do. And like, I like the idea of it being like they wanted to just figure out how to reverse the desertification in Persia and make it a thriving country. I like that motivation. I love the idea of a reforestation robot being turned into a killing machine because it's got power over the weather. Though I think a few too many things about the robot rules are just unclear enough that I think there's like too many moving pieces with what's going on with Sahad, because it's like Sahad's being manipulated by his dad, and it's like he's not being manipulated very well in the moments you see, so it's a little confusing. And it's like, really? He's willing to like kill and kidnap children for this clearly evil guy who's not acting like his dad was at all. And it seems like Sahad was adopted as like an older model of a robot, so like clearly he would have... What was Sahad made by Abla because he says I was under the impression because Sahad had a wife. You do think so or don't? I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
I think he was made by Dr. Abra.
Yeah, Sahad was made. Okay, good.
Because Abdullah had a wife, a human child, and then 2 robot children.
Yeah, I was unclear if he like adopted one or the because like it was weird that he even had 2 because the other one never came up, and it's like I mean that's fine. I get like there's no reason that doesn't take anything away from anything, but like also you know we technically first meet Sahad as the homeless robot in the park.
Yeah, I loved how he looked though, by the way. That was
yeah, no, he had a cool design and I liked that character.
Kurt Cobain.
But like we end up seeing that he's still got his power to generate plants from nothing.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like that's a bonkers power that frankly doesn't make any sense at all. And they're like, that's fine. But like, is that really a thing that like just taking the hard drive of a robot's personality and putting it into like a generic worker model, it still has the power to do plant stuff? Like that does, to me, that doesn't seem in line with the rules of the rest of the universe. But yeah, I guess
I agree.
Like I just think there's like 2 or 3 small elements that are like a little too much with the core of twists, especially if the true antagonist is technically going to be the teddy bear at the end of everything.
Yeah. And also like Pluto had that weird power to just like transfer itself to like robots from like distance or whatever. And like that was
but like did that ever get like used other than that scene so we could meet Sahad early in the park?
Like no.
Like no, right?
It was just a weird thing placed so that you couldn't really figure out who the murderer technically was due to the fact of like he could just disappear at whatever point. And he still had the powers even in other robots, right?
And that's why I was like, when I first saw Gashik's death, I was like, oh, he spared Pluto, and Pluto used its power to like teleport its brain and finish its mission of killing Gashik. But no, it was Roosevelt apparently, which I find everything about that strange.
Yeah,
like
this it makes like the existence of the old Persian emperor. What the fuck's name? Something the 14th.
Yeah.
Because like he has that scene where he asks for crayons and then he draws the field of flowers in his cell and he's like, "This is Pluto. This is the end of the world." And it's kind of like I didn't realize you knew about that.
Yeah, the mystery is like it's interesting in some points, but like obviously if you think about it too hard, it falls flat. But the manga had a
strong
emotional core, which is why it's good. You know, like the mystery was just a thing that existed to be like a plate that they put the actual meal on, you know?
Sort of to just like string it to the Astro Boy source material, really. But you don't read it for that source material. You read it because you want to explore those complex themes of humanism and robotics.
Pluto is a really excellent android's sheep story.
Yeah.
And it's like an interesting read from a mystery angle, but it's a bad mystery, if that makes sense.
Oh shit, Morphogenetic Sorrow.
The song is good.
Yeah.
I have to go, but thanks for the fun discussion, Yam, Jello, and Aloha. Take care. Bye, Violet.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Was the leader the 13th or 14th? My translation swapped between them both. Mine did too, which was very weird because like that to me, that strikes me as a thing that would not be ambiguous in a translation.
I feel like it was a typo because I only remember seeing the 13th for like one chapter or something. So I think just like someone got it wrong and it was the 14th every other time.
So Jack Patterson says, I disagree. I lost a lot of motivation after Geist died. So are you saying you disagree because you think that Gishite was like the core of the mystery, and thus when he died the mystery ended and thus the manga got worse? Because the real thing is just like while Gishite was like deep in the mystery, he was so core to the emotional core. I think that him dying weakened the emotional core, and that's probably why it got worse. And then also just like they had to wrap up this mystery while also trying to shove like the emotional core out there anyways.
Yeah, I guess I wish Geschichte had died just a little later. From the same. Sorry, go ahead.
So I thought guys faked his death in that he was the random security bot that was with Epsilon at the fucking
that would be cool.
Yeah,
actually.
because like their structure and everything was very similar, and I thought he was gonna take off the helmet and it was him all along, and he faked his death in order to try to like reveal the villain, but no, he was just dead.
Yeah, I like everything that happens to Geschichte. I think it's good.
Yeah.
I like that he dies because I think him being the thing that saves the day through Astro Boy is great. That's really good. That is the good ending.
Giving him the kindness.
I also like how I don't remember who said it. It was one of the bad guys, but I think it was the Roosevelt AI, but they sort of hinted to the fact that if anyone was going to defeat Pluto, it was going to be Geschichte. And that ended up being true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked it's a great bow on things, but I do kind of agree with Fox Owl that I also sort of agree with Jack that after Geschichte died, I stopped being interested, not because I went, man, my guy's dead, but I started reading it more. I was like, oh yeah, I don't like the rest of the cast as much as that guy, and I don't really care about the mystery intrigue too much, and I don't dislike Tenma, but I don't like him nearly as much as you do, Aloha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was only really interested in the last little bit after his death was because I knew his memory chip would come back, and I wanted to know what scene specifically was going to tie into the end, and then that happened, and I was like, cool manga.
Yeah, it's a good adaptation way to keep Astro Boy as the boy hero while also making the main character Pluto responsible. Yeah, boy.
Yeah, that was really good. And Jack did say I think Geschichte should have killed Pluto when they fought. I don't agree with that. I like him being compassionate, and I love him going, I'm gonna quit because I refuse to kill this robot on orders from Europol because I need to talk to him, and I learned why he's doing this, and he's essentially like a young man with a good heart at gunpoint.
He understood that he was a victim.
Yeah, and the Epsilon did too at that point, where it's just like, if if it means killing you, I won't do it, right? It's like
and I do like that essentially Abdullah is the one who kills Epsilon, not really Pluto. Mm-hmm. Because he's actually there. He's Goji, or whatever you want to call him, is not present for most of the robot deaths. But he is present for that one. It feels like his grip on Pluto is really slipping, so he needs to actually be there at this stage in the plan, which I do like. I will also say, so this is totally on me. I forgot the investigation unit was called the Gora investigation unit. So I was just like, that's the investigation unit. Cause I thought Gora was an all caps NATO kind of thing.
Why was the survey unit called the Bora survey unit?
I don't know.
That's true.
They shouldn't have been.
Was it just to add confusion about the kid saying Bora, and it's just like, no, Bora was the robot, and it's like, why was the Bora survey unit?
I totally forgot that was their name because I just assumed it was an acronym for bad, oh no, robot
assholes.
Investigation.
Oh no, robot! Ah!
Investigation squad. So I didn't internalize it, and then when the boy started talking, it was like this was all he could say, and it was like he would say that, but he didn't know the robot's name. He was repeating the noise it made. So I thought that robot was just Pluto again, and this kid had been traumatized by seeing Pluto. So I was like, oh, it's all one thing. But it was like, no, there's another robot named Bora. And I'm like, oh, Why?
Like,
and
apparently,
did they name it after the noise? That seems weird.
Someone in chat said like the people in the survey weren't sure what Bora meant, or even if it was an acronym. It's just like, yeah, I think Bora was a Persian god. I mean, it's just like they definitely didn't explain that because like at least
Goji
Pluto,
was the Persian god.
Yeah, Goji was the thing.
Yeah, because even then it's just like there was a scene with the murderer robot that is omnipotent apparently, and who was just like, yes. Horns, they're a symbol of the god of the underworld. This, but they also are Pluto, thundercrack, scary. It's
I saw some people opining online. I was like, so why leave, a calling card, essentially? And like the meta reason is just so the killer has a cool visual calling card. This is a pretty good visual.
I mean, it's
though I think they
right now.
I think they start calling them horns a little liberally very early on. Like I don't think I would have even recognized them as that on most of the human murders until the hanging guy in Japan. But I saw someone was like, I think Pluto, like this is one of, if not the most iconic Astro Boy arcs, mostly just because it's the longest.
Yeah.
And even then it's only like 100 and something pages, so it's like not even a full volume. But like, Japan loves their stag beetles and their big horned guys.
Horny men.
And the horns are pretty iconic. So it was like, since we can't give the game, like, for the record, in the original, Pluto is in like panel 1. You fucking see what he looks like and know who he is and what he's doing. It's not a mystery at all. Like that's a complete invention of this of Urasawa. And this, like, I think someone was like, maybe they just wanted to do this horns thing to like keep the iconography consistent. Well, it's like adapting Little Red Riding Hood and being like, there's like a red hood of blood around the victim. Like it's like kind of stupid, but like, but you can't see who's the Red Hood. Like you don't get to see Red Riding Hood, the murderer.
I would be fine with the horns if at the end, when Pluto stopped the bomb and froze the magma, if it was frozen in the shape of horns. Or the tulip, like we talked about.
That happened, and I immediately DM'd Aloha, and I was like, huge mistake, the frozen lava is not a giant frozen tulip,
like
as
tulip
Tulip's
or
last
horns. I was
thing.
waiting for it, and no, it's just a pillar of ice, and I'm like, wow, way to drop the ball on something that could have been the raddest fucking panel of manga ever. It's like the fucking Hunter x Hunter nuke, where it's just a flower. Yeah, it's just like, that's the coolest shit. It's dope. Like, obviously Hunter x Hunter has flaws, but at least that shit is just like, at least like, yeah, it's stupid, but at least
I think your music stopped, by the way.
Yeah, we went through all the 999 OST.
Just start it over.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, I saw the big pillar and thought they were going to zoom out to being a stem. I was floored. It was one panel and they didn't zoom out.
Yeah. I kind of like the rotate on robot then, since robots can still be repaired, but since they're raised, they just have just give them the same memory chip, won't make them the same person when they reactivate it. I don't think we see.
Sorry, Foxowl. I just looked it up, and the original name of the Sultan was Chochi Ababa. And I was like, yeah, I decided not to mention that. Sorry, you had a thought.
I was just talking about how is it clear that if you put a memory chip into a different robot, if it's like that robot gets transferred to that body or not? Because like
I thought the answer was yes. It was just that a lot of robots kept getting murdered.
Yeah, I don't like, but yeah, that's offensive. Hey man, yeah. Where's my edgy Johnny Quest remake? That's like Pluto.
It's called Venture Brothers.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
Speaking of truly next level racism, I saw a bunch of people having many opinions. Let's talk about the robot Ku Klux Klan arc a little bit. Because I did at first, I saw them and was like, oh, this is the KKK, very literally. And at first I was like, surely this, knowing some of the other stuff that is in Tezuka's work, I was like, this is probably from Astro Boy. It is not, or at least it's not from this arc if it's there. And then the main antagonist guy who we follow, his name is Adolf, and he looks a little Hitlerish without the mustache. It's not subtle, and like it's so funny because I was telling Aloha, I was like, it feels like a great writer adapting something very stupid, and I was wrong because the stupid parts were also his idea. But then you get these really good scenes where I love you're introduced to Adolf, and he's like, his wife is like being like, I wish they didn't have so many robots around. He's like, don't say that kind of stuff. People will call it discrimination, which is such a real racist reaction of like, I need to be careful. I don't want people to know I'm racist. And but like, I like that he's the most racist one in his family, even though he seems actually to be like the quietest about it at first outwardly, which I think is interesting. And I love his son as a character, the way he interacts with Geschicht, because I showed when it was like, I've been assigned to protect you, sir. I sent that screen to Aloha and I went, Chainsaw Man Part 2 ass plot development. And I love that. I love that like immediately the child is just like, this guy's so fucking cool. Oh, I've never actually talked to a robot. This guy's great. And his dad seething.
Because kids would think robots are just sick as fuck. Because they are. Truly.
And like, at first I was like, it's pretty stupid that the KKK is just here in Germany or whatever. And then I went, you know what? No, this is kind of how neo-racists work, isn't it? They just resurrect an old racist ideology with all of the same like visuals. Like that's why
we have Nazis here. Why can't the KKK we have in Germany?
Modern American racists use Nazi flags and Confederate flags and like the symbols of old, dead, failed racist nations. So it makes as much sense for Germany to resurrect the Klan, frankly.
No, that's just a historical tactic of racists. They just look to a history that never existed and then adopt symbolism that doesn't belong to them and twist it forever. Thanks.
God. But we haven't read any of this person's like other work, like because this person's made Monster, they made 20th Century Boys.
I really want to check out his other stuff now.
Yeah, me too. I've always had him like on the back burner as a creator I wanted to check out, but this is the first one I've actually dived into, and I'm excited to see more.
Literally any manga recommendation video you see on YouTube is like, read 20th Century Boys, and I'm like, please.
I know. I did hear that for like 15 years.
Someone in here was like, his stuff is great, but I'm not surprised this ending's a little bit wishy-washy, other than the Astro Boy memory transfer thing with Geschicht. Because this mangaka is not great at endings in general, and they did list both Monster and 20th Century Boys as that. But I'm still I think my average time, the average enjoyment I had reading Pluto was the highest of anything in Manga Book Club.
It's like, it's the thing of like the mystery was kind of like, but like I don't give a shit. The
I kind of didn't
was
care.
So fucking good. Like
I wasn't here for that.
I know a lot of people, like, endings can be very powerful because it's like the last impression you have with something. I typically don't really care if an ending is bad if the rest of it is good. I feel like I'm less affected by that.
Especially in like manga, right? Endings are so fucking difficult because typically it's like most manga go on for like 1,000,000 years because like they're successful, or they end abruptly due to being axed. This manga was produced between 2003 to 2009. Right, so that's like 6 years this manga was being produced, right? I don't know what...
That's like, actually longer than I thought, wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like monthly or weekly or what like the release schedule was, but I do know it was from 2003 to 2009, right?
The version I read had a foreword at the end, or afterword or whatever, by the author that was like very neutrally worded thing at the end of the volume where he was like, yeah, I got reached out to by one of Tezuka's descendants, his son maybe, and they were looking to do an adaptation of The World's Strongest Robot, but like maybe I was intrigued by the idea of making a side character the main character, and I thought that could be kind of cool. So we started working on it, and now after all this time, we finally have enough for 1 volume. So I'm guessing, but it seems like he kind of just maybe worked on it between other stuff.
Yeah, I believe if I looked at his My Anime list, like, because My Anime list is where I go to see like when manga was like started and finished and everything like that, and who worked on it. I believe he had other works going on like in the middle of Pluto, or at least near the end of Pluto. He had like other stuff that started like in the middle of it. But yeah.
I think, and maybe this is pretentious, but Pluto is just more important than Dungeon Meshi or One Piece. Like, it feels closer to a graphic novel like Mouse or Watchmen. Yeah, I said that to Amy when we were chatting, and I was doing a bad job not talking about Pluto because we were like, we don't want to say any thoughts to each other before we do our book club. But anyway, here's some thoughts. And I was like, this feels like a more enjoyable version of Watchmen to me a little bit. Because like Watchmen isn't bad, but God, it's exhausting. It's so bleak.
As soon as I picked it up, I was like, man, this is like reading a movie. You know, like the vibes and everything was just so good.
Yeah, I think One Piece definitely has more. It's more important in a pop culture sense, but Pluto definitely has more interesting takes on more important things. The world would be a better place if more people read things like Pluto and had opinions on like, especially like Americans.
I'm glad that the anime adaptation came out, because now people might pay more attention to things like Pluto. Like your non-traditional manga anime looking thing that doesn't look like the same like black-haired protagonist, simplified nose, like, you know, kind of shit, where it's just like, yes, the protagonist of Pluto is a German balding robot man. And I know I emphasize it so much, but I'm just like, it's so interesting that they looked at this robot and designed him to be balding.
I know, I saw that you said that in a chat, and you're like, dude, they made this robot balding.
like you do design a robot, and you're like, yes, to make him feel more human, we must do something. Recede that hairline, engineer.
But Chloe Auger, you should explain Gashik's role in the original Astro Boy. Go into great detail about how important and integral he is in Astro Boy. You know what? To be fair, I still think he's the best character in the original. The other robots who explode before him are just like, I'm the strongest robot, I'm the best robot ever. And then they do something to Pluto, and Pluto goes, I made up a power just now, explode, and then they blow up. And then Gashik shows up. That's not his name in the original, but like, you know, it's English translation of Japanese doing German words, so I'm sure it was probably always the same, but it keeps getting translated differently. And he's like sort of a Tin Man bronze looking guy. He doesn't look the same at all.
He's made of unobtainium, you know.
And he's like sparkling, and they're like, wow, why are you sparkling? He's like, I'm made of unobtainium, you see. So don't worry, if I get hit by a laser, it won't blow me up. So I'm gonna go arrest Pluto, because he's doing a robot crime, and I just wanted to let you know, Astro Boy. And Astro Boy's like, oh, great, Mr. Pluto, or you're not Pluto. Great, Mr. Gashik, good luck. And Gashik walks up and is like, hello, Pluto, I'm here to arrest you. No, you're not, lasers. I'm immune to lasers. Damn, he's immune to lasers. And then just very casually, he's like, he gets like stuck between his horns, which he uses to like electrify stuff like Vikavolt style. And the horns just lean outwards, and like it's a fucking episode of Happy Tree Friends. Gashik is just ripped in half and dies instantly. They don't even draw his body getting ripped in half. That time, they're just like, he died and I didn't want to draw it.
God.
Cool.
Yippee! Man, it must have been so fucking powerful to be like a manga artist so early on, before there were standards, and you could just make anything. And
really,
like,
if you were making shit in the pre-internet era, the bar was pretty fucking low for most things, to be honest. Yeah. Is there any other stuff we haven't really talked about? I really liked. I really liked the whole Adolf arc, to be honest. I think it was probably my favorite part of the series, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, it's the thing of just like seeing this character who's like a bigot just kind of like admit that he's fucking awful, and he's just like, yeah, it's fucking stupid. Why did I do all this stuff? Because Shai's just like a good guy, and my family hates me now, but please, I don't care if I live. Just make sure my family lives. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. That's like better than I feel like most like racist ass characters would be able to like do. Like, you're still awful, but at least it's not like, you know.
I do think it's a pretty accurate
Yeah.
depiction of what most racists are like. Where,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah.
they talk big and they hang out in their little stupid
Little
clubhouse,
clubs, yeah,
and they're like, oh, we hate robots so much, we'll kill all the robots, we hate them, but don't tell your neighbor, because your neighbor will get yelly and mad and you'll be not happy. And it's like, oh, I hate the robots so much, I'm gonna blow them up with a gun that I bought. And all your other racist friends are like, don't do that.
I love that they're like, we need the media to kill Gashik, not you.
Yeah.
Which is super correct. And like, you immediately see this like Fox News pundit circle, like, should robot judges be allowed to judge us non-robots? I know, I'm just saying.
Exactly. And it's true that that is more effective at getting, the ultimate goal of getting rid of all robots. But it's also very like hands-off. You never have to confront the fact that you're a piece of shit until, the one guy decides, I'm gonna fucking do it, and he buys a gun and tries to shoot a man, and he's like, that man is just sitting at home having a nice conversation with his wife, and I can't kill him because that's a person. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And then, every time he tries to demonize Gashik, and Gashik is just patient and nice to his child and nice to his wife, and there is no reason to kill him. And actually, you're a piece of shit coward for thinking this way.
Yeah.
It's great.
I like that he manages to stay not only believable and well written, like he works very much the way real world racists work, but I like that he has a cartoon backstory of a toon killed my brother, I don't work with toons kind of energy. But like they managed to keep him enough of a person that I think bad racism stories will be like, they make racism a personal choice, rather than like a thing, like a poison in the ground you grow out of as you get older. And I really like that at the end of everything, and like you'll see in stories from like the most patient people who are like dealing with like transphobes or whatever, and like people who are indoctrinated into stuff, that there is a level of patience where you can be like, hey, I'm sure, like I saw this great story from, it was like a teacher or something, and she was like, yeah, this one of my students wanted to transition and like told me about it, but hadn't told their parents, and somehow it like got out to their parents that like I was using their preferred pronouns. So they like called me and were like, they had like the whole Facebook message thing, and it was like this like very accept, like how dare you indoctrinate my kids into this. And they were like so patient and using language of like they kept going like, I know you want what's best for your child or whatever. And eventually it like de-escalated to just like, not even like, I'm sorry I was mad, but just like, I'm so confused and upset. Does my child hate me? And they're like, no, yeah, I'm sure your child loves you a lot. They just want you to understand this part of them. And like the idea that with the patience and the heart of so much kindness of someone like Yasit and a robot, you just do win against racists eventually. And at the end of it all, when a person is showing their true colors, the last thing Adolf says when he's about to die is like, please make sure my family's okay. And like, I like that. I like that level of humanity.
Also, can we talk about the scene that followed a little after that, which actually did make me cry, which is like, Gashik realizing that like, oh, I do know what this hatred feels like, and turning to Adolf and being like, hey, does hatred ever go away? Is there something I can do about this, or do I have to feel like this forever? And oh god.
God. But yeah, that's the thing about a lot of like racist groups and stuff, like is that they're all role players. and the fact of like they all go to their little clubs and then put on their little roles.
They're all role players is such a good quick summary. Holy shit.
Because I have personal experiences with these groups, so I know how they work a little bit. And so yeah, they dead ass, they're just role players with their little roles and their little positions, right? And they just pretend with their own bigoted ideals, right? And so just seeing that like encapsulated into this like manga is just like, yeah, this is just really a realistic kind of depiction of these groups, I feel. I have to say this is a great playlist, also very funny to me because half these songs are used in my friend's Pokemon fan game. This is the 999 OST. So yeah, are you guys there?
Yeah.
Okay, it was just quiet. I didn't know when the internet disconnected.
Sorry, I was messaging someone about something.
Yeah.
I was reading chat.
Reading chat.
Yeah, I'm trying to his shitty robo pedo brother. Yeah, I feel like the implication was that he also fucked the robot children or something, right? Like he did all the things.
Did he? I missed that implication if that was true.
It only got mentioned explicitly once. There was like they were really obtuse about it, but that's the vibe I got. Am I the only one reading that? Because
if it happened, I missed it. I just thought he was brutalizing children robots and ripping them limb from limb.
He was definitely killing them, but at some point they were like, he was like a twisted fuck and like I did get the same vibe. Yeah, like he definitely did. It's yeah, okay. I'd have to reread it, and we're reading different translations, but like to me, that's the thing. I was like waiting for that, you know, because I was like, if even the neo-Nazis are like not in our clubhouse, I was like, it's probably some flavor of pedophilia, right? And at some point they said some word that was like assaulting or like getting his kicks from them in a way that could mean violence, but is more commonly meant to cleanly refer to sexual assault. And yeah, I maybe it's not explicit, but that's how I read it.
Yeah. God.
Either way, it's still horrible. And when you realize why Gashik snapped, you feel it, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
When it hits you. I like this manga in that kind of way where it's just like it doesn't just say like, oh, that was Gashik's child. You just kind of have to like put the clues together yourself in that way, and it clicks, and you're just like, oh. Now, like obviously go on.
As Digo says, there's a passing comment where one of the investigators mentions there's existence of people who molest robot children, and you're meant to make the connection. Maybe that's why, but like, I don't know. That was just the worst thing I could imagine. So given the way everyone in the universe talked about that character, I was like, I was ready for it at least.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce that 500 Zeus?
I assume it's just Zeus.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just work here, bro. I don't know if that's a real currency or not.
500 Zeus, don't open the door, Denji.
That's what I was thinking about the entire time. I love shit like that so much, man. Oh, God. Is that the currency in Germany? Bro, I don't know, man. I'm American. I only speak in eagles. Like, I watch this fucking Australian channel who reviews like headphones and stuff, and they always just fucking refer to like American dollar as freedom eagles. I love it. So you had a entire like thing you wanted to like save till the end, Yam, right?
Did I?
Oh, you said so.
Yeah.
About the whole like entire theme of the entire like manga, right?
Oh, I think it had to do with like the hatred. It was like hatred and stuff.
Oh yeah.
That was the theme I took away from the manga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
Everyone expects robots to be, you know, like these machines of hate or whatever, but they actually learn the most valuable lesson from us, which is kindness. And it's happy to think that if or when whatever they survive humans, that's the thing that they will take into the future.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll also mention this. I skimmed over this in the adaptation. So Astro is a 100,000 horsepower robot, and Pluto's like, I'm a 200,000 horsepower robot.
Oh my god.
So Astro turns to his grandpa and is like, Grandpa, old man, please make me a 1 million horsepower robot. And he goes, no, your body's too small. That'll hurt you. And it's like, I'm so fucking pissed you won't do it. And then later Tenma shows up and is like, hello, Astro, would you like me to upgrade you? Here you go. Thank you so much. And then he zips around like he's got a caffeine high for a little bit, but then it's just like, I have a million horsepower now. And Tenma goes, goodbye. And I was like, well, what a interesting, much better adaptation of their relationship.
I'll just ask my mom. Yeah, God. I also like Gajite's engineer. He was really sick.
Yeah.
And how upset he was when he was interrogating the government guy. It's just like, did you alter my robot's memories? And it's just like, he just didn't give him an answer.
He's just like, don't bother looking into it.
Yeah, Kaufman was like a nice surprise ally for me. I expected him to just be like a government pawn or whatever and just be in on it. But he was like, no, he actually cared about Geschicht and they were good friends.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that, like, his design is the most ungood guy scientist design you can do. It's the most like I'm a Trails of Cold whatever villain. Yeah. He looks exactly like that one dude, the one from the Crossbell games. And
it was the specific character that I started like thinking like is with like the closed mouth thing, because there's a scene where he's talking to Geschicht and he doesn't open his mouth fucking once, and I was like, are they just doing it with the humans? Are they just making it to make the humans look uncomfortable? But yeah.
I liked him.
Like out of all, like I said at the beginning, out of all of them, this is probably my favorite one that we read so far. And probably, like, I obviously read One Piece and Dungeon Meshi, I think, because I buy them all physically, and I think, like, this is, like, one that I wouldn't sell, Like, this is one that I would, like, keep on the shelf, and, like, if I had anyone to give it to, I'd be like, hey, read Pluto, here you go, borrow my copy.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Chloe says, you guys didn't mention this, but I love Oran's scene where she helps several people before she wanders into Tobio's grave. That scene fucks me up.
Yeah, having, like, it's so weird because, like, it's hard to mention her because it's just, like, in my mind, she's always been in the weird place because it's like she isn't one of the most 7 advanced robots, even though she's just like, I guess she doesn't have the weapons that Asteroid Boy does, but it's just like her extreme empathy senses, I feel like, is a very interesting thing to have in this series.
I love that she and Astro, it's so funny because she and Astro are both newer and more advanced robots and look so human that everyone's like, oh, you really can't tell these days. Like, kids, walk over here. This is the robot. Like that's the robot door. And like, we are robots. They're like, wow, that's cuckoo bananas. And I like that. I think they probably have the best PR of any of the robots because Astro Boy's like the hero who helped clinch the war at the end, and like he looks like a human little boy, so very easy to be a nice propaganda boy. Yeah. And Oran's just like a fucking baby, but. For me, the vibes they give off the whole series are just like so creepily perfect. That's just like, I am programmed to be empathetic. Someone is sad. How can I help them? And like, in a way that divorces them from humanity. And Astro's just like, I'm the strongest one. I'm the best robot. I'm so perfect. I love eating ice cream. Here, let me analyze the data. Allow me to look at everything. I've solved the crime instantly. Here you go. And it's like, but like all the robots that went through war and have been around for years are like, yeesh. Like they're more human because they've had more time to grow. Like Tenma said, a good AI is nurtured.
Yeah. Good job, gamers. We did it. I'm desperately trying to think of like what else to talk about Pluto.
I don't really know how to segue this in anywhere, but I guess I can just bring it up here.
Yeah.
But in the version that I read, I think it was literally a scanlation of like the first volume, and at the end of it, there was like a postscript written by Takamasa Matsutani, who's the president of Tezuka Productions.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wrote like this big blurb about like, this is Pluto. Here's how it came about, blah, blah, blah. Here's what this was kind of like the hopes and that we wanted when we proposed this idea. And if I could just like read the last 2 paragraphs, because I think they're interesting and it might be cool to talk about just for a bit.
Yeah.
So he starts it by talking about like Tezuka and his legacy. So he says, when Tezuka was at the age that Urasawa is now, Mushi-Pro had gone bankrupt, on the verge of death. But the next year, in 1973 to 74, one only has to see his schedule to find the start of Blackjack, also Mitsume ga Toru, Barubora, and Shumari in big comics. Plus, in December 1974, 4 weekly serials, 1 separate weekly serial, 3 monthlies, as well as one-shots. The workload of a man possessed. This is not meant to be idle praise of Tezuka. Every author has different qualities. And while pride in quantity is rather useless, quantity itself has its own significance, because constant eagerness and dedication to one's work will never fail to leave great value in the world. Now the comics of Japan have evolved to the level where they are recognized worldwide by the word manga. In the post-war 50s, Osamu Tezuka and his Tokiwa Soul group led the manga world forward and greatly developed the possibilities of the medium. But now I believe that manga is attempting to hold back a period of excess. The world of manga is beginning to develop a shadow, as the ever-rising scales resemble the post-war Japanese economy more and more. However, the expressive potential of manga is infinite, and room for development is infinite. Please, Mr. Urasawa, please continue to create the kind of great works that will lead the world of manga for the people of the past and the future. I'm looking forward to it. I like this idea of the manga industry being likened to post-war economic Japan. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This big boom of excess that is doomed to crash. I'm not sure that's exactly happened, but I kind of see what he's getting at.
Yeah.
I also kind of maybe because this, definitely because we're talking about Pluto and robots and stuff, but like I want to relate it to like the current AI stuff that's going on in the real world right now, where Mizutani is talking about like excess and how like pride in quantity is useless.
Yeah. Yeah.
When there's no like context of like what is that quantity for, right? You know, people are just like creating shit, but for what purpose? What are you trying to say?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Tezuka was out here making his art and trying to tell as many stories as possible with purpose. It's, I don't know, little foods for thought.
Yeah. Like, manga industry and everything like that is so interesting, and it like all art is obviously interesting, because like obviously between last book club and now Akira Toriyama is dead, right? And so much things are coming out about
Pluto
him.
got him.
Pluto
one
got
of the
him.
7 strongest mangaka.
Oh god.
You hear about Akira Toriyama and it's just like I never knew what his like Sona looked like that he used, or like I knew his works. Obviously I'm a very big Dragon Quest fan and grew up with Dragon Ball and stuff, but it's like it's this thing of just creating and keep pushing that out, that like, because Dragon Ball was like his like 4th work. You know, it was like he produced a lot of stuff before he actually made something like that people actually like clung on to, right? Like,
yeah, I mean he was a lot like Tezuka. He just made a lot of shit.
That's what I was bringing it up. Yeah, like, and I don't know, it's the excess, you know, but it's just like you've got to find, eventually make something and then say something with it, and that is art, right? Rather than AI, which is just like just spitting shit out for no reason.
Yeah, I also like the idea that Mizutani saw the potential in Urasawa and was like, please, like if you can, I believe you have the potential to change the world of manga and art comics coming out of Japan if you go along the same path as Tezuka. Just like keep creating, keep saying what you have to say. It's neat.
Yeah, Jello had a Jello has posted this.
This is just the panel, the funniest fucking most 60s Tezuka writing of, how come you didn't beat that bad robot? What's wrong? I know, I bet you ran away because you're scared of him. You're a scaredy cat, Astro, I hate you! Cuts to a new scene.
He's shit talking him as he keeps walking. This is honestly fucking hilarious. Oh man. But yeah. Executive override the poll, just read Dragon Ball next? Nah, we have something even better.
It's my fault.
It was a last minute decision, but honestly, I'm kind of hyped for it, not gonna lie.
Yeah, so the poll isn't closed yet, and it is close enough it can still swing. There's a 5-vote difference right now.
But Bo isn't really fully available for Golden Kamuis even if we did hit it. So yeah.
Yeah. So the two Yam options of Pandora Hearts and Berserk are in the bottom half of the poll at the moment. Way more people are excited for the possibility of Zatch Bell than I was expecting. But I guess, in fairness, I literally did read a couple volumes of it, and I was like, this is better than it should be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not a lock yet. I'm gonna give it at least one more set of 24 hours, but the two things we will likely be reading next are either Golden Kamui or, slightly more likely, Pokemon Special.
Pokemon
and
Adventures,
Golden Kamui is not too hard to find online.
Yeah.
But I don't normally just go, here's a link, but I might link to some Reddits if I have to for Pokemon Special, because
it's hard to find.
If we end up doing that, the publication of that is really inconsistent, because it's been around about as long as One Piece has, but like inconsistently, and it's passed between different owners, different translators, different artists.
Yeah.
And I read all of it that I could find like 10 years ago, which was up to Black and White, and then it just disappeared, but I knew there was more. And Aloha and I kind of looked around last night, and it's still pretty hard to find further than there.
Black and White, I think, had some printing issues. At least that's my assumption. Because the older stuff, which is like, red and green through Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, you can get. There's like box sets of them. You can easily buy it. But Black and White, the box sets for it go for like $300, which is obviously just like scalping like out of print prices. And you can buy the physical volumes, like the singles, but they're around normal market price to $16 for a volume, right? And so that leads me to believe that these are a little bit harder to obtain physically. But due to them not being impossible, I'm praying that there's like better scans of them from when Jello did. And then past Black and White, there's Black and White 2, which I think might be going through the same issue. And what is it? Past that, I think X and Y and all that stuff has box sets that are easily available because they're more recent as well. But like Black and White is probably the gray area where we're like, how do we do this? But we can pretty confidently read Fire.
Which sucks because Black and White has my favorite factoid scene to tell people about from this stupid manga.
Yeah. So we'll at least be reading Red and Green through Platinum pretty confidently. And obviously we can take a break between this because this is also a longer series with like 60 plus volumes, right? And it has, it's very easily split upable through.
So after One Piece, obviously One Piece is an exhausting marathon, and it just gets worse for the most part.
But at least this will be way more fun than One Piece.
Yeah, but like And then we did Dunmeshi, and then we did this, and like I wanted something longer for sure. I wanted something that was at least 3 sessions for sure. And like bare minimum 2.
Yeah.
And because I like being able to have multiple sittings with the same crew and evolving opinions over a series. And I am, part of me is disappointed because like Golden Kamui has so much going on. And I don't know anything about Berserk, but Berserk has so much going on, I'm sure, and so much to talk about. And so, like, from an artistic standpoint, those would have been fun to talk about in the way that Pluto is fun to talk about.
Yeah.
But Pokemon Special will be fun to talk about in the way that One Piece is fun to talk about, because sometimes you come in and you're like, yo, that was great. I loved this goofy fucking thing and this and that and the other thing. And then other days you'll read the Emerald arc and come in like a wet dog with your head hung low and go, I wish for death. And you get to dunk on it.
Yeah. And
I hope you guys have fun with that.
Yeah, I don't know if we could find anyone who would want to read this with us, so I think
I think it's gonna be me and Aloha, and that's it.
Boys night, let's go! That's right. I really wanted Berserk, mostly because I want tax write-ups on buying those Berserk Deluxe volumes.
I mean, you could still buy them.
Because I think we're definitely going to do it at some point, yeah. 100%.
Volt Golden Kamui, please. Yam also said she wasn't super interested in Golden Kamui. We maybe be getting Bo back, but Bo also was like, I don't know. I might need more time off of book club.
Yeah.
Though Bo is very familiar with Golden Kamui, so it is maybe, if we do that, I might ask if Bo wants to pop on in the middle, because Bo's read it already.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll keep the look at the vote. We'll figure this stuff out. But I think that's pretty much Pluto. I don't know what else we could talk about, really. Like, it
was pretty good. I want to see more of Naoki Urasawa's work. I love the way he draws, and I'm very interested in the way he writes. I want to watch Monster with Yam.
Yeah, because you guys
and Will. We're taking Will. We're contractually obligated to take Will.
But no. Let me change the fucking song. This song's fucking bummer.
It's scary.
What are we gonna read next? Pokemon.
But no, anything else you guys want to say? Anything else you... and if we... At earliest, if we do anything, the next book club will be like April 14th, because April 7th is like my birthday, so I'm not sure what I'm doing that day. So.
Yeah, I'd like to keep book club rolling, because it's felt very staggered.
Yeah.
Over this last half a year, really.
Yeah. Once we start Golden Kamui or Pokemon, it's gonna continue. So like
yeah, that's the other reason I wanted a long one.
Yeah.
Golden Kamui would be a 3-sitter, and I think Pokemon would be mentally mathing
like 4 or 6, right?
Pretty long. Because the first 7 volumes are one big story arc. Technically, it's like 2 halves, but you want to read up through Yellow in the first sitting.
Yeah.
Etc. Etc. We'll talk about it, and I'll probably, once there's an announcement, I'll probably also just include not very much in the. Again, it's like that's the other thing, is I really want to do another big Imgur album of opinions, and I think those are fucking funny. And even Aloha will probably have to start reading digitally for some chunks of
I honestly should have for Pokemon, but I just like literally impulse bought like 4 box sets because I was just like, I can't control myself. But yeah. Someone says, I'm kind of sad the book club day is Sundays now. It's always been Sundays.
No, it was Saturday.
What?
For the first, like, most of One Piece.
That's crazy.
We moved it because Skies of Arcadia was Saturdays, remember?
And I didn't want to do, I didn't want to do book club after Skies of Arcadia.
I actually also prefer it being Saturdays, and am down to switch it back, but we'll see. I'll announce within the week. And also, maybe Amy and I might do our first streamed sitting of talking about anime openings on Friday?
Maybe. Exciting.
Pluto Gang, I respect you all for showing up for the smaller series before we like double the pool for Pokemon.
Yeah, like of course people recognize Pokemon and they're gonna pick it. Like, and I also wrote the most about Pokemon, where I was like, I think this series is more interesting from a meta perspective, because it's one of the reasons I'm so hard on Game Freak for doing their terrible short dev cycles is because it's illustrated it used to be illustrated nowhere better. Now it's very obvious with their increasingly terrible bare bones new releases, but for a long time it was illustrated nowhere better than the Pokemon manga, which went at the same story pace for every arc, but they started doing games and remakes so often and so quickly that almost every arc is devoid of an ending after Ruby Sapphire, and it's bad. It's bad every time. It's really sad. What I'm saying is it will not be fun to read.
Great. I hope you guys have fun.
I will miss you, Amy.
But we'll see. Who knows? Democratic decision might overrule all your votes. But we at least like to pretend you have the choice. So we'll see.
Yeah, I wanted to read Pluto. I forced Pluto after Dunmeshi because it felt like a really good. First of all, Yam's been like, I would also like to do something, and I'm like, how about this? And you're like, no. So I wanted to get Yam in here for one.
I'll eat whatever slop.
Yeah.
Yeah, wake me up until Berserk is the manga for book club. Hey man, it'll
That's
happen.
me. That's me.
It'll
I
happen.
put last time Dunmeshi was our collective choice because it was a good thing to move into after One Piece.
Yeah.
So I was like, all of us are interested in this, and everyone was like, that one won by a landslide. So I was like, surely people would be interested in clicking the thing that has our names on it. So I was like, Golden Kamui is the me and Bo pick, and Berserk is the Yam Aloha pick. And people do not want to read Berserk.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, I understand, but I want to read Berserk.
I want to read Berserk
and
so
talk
bad.
about it.
Yeah.
You guys, give me an excuse. Come on.
Yeah, same,
bro.
Give me
or
tax
at least do Pandora Hearts.
I'm going to
Honestly,
push
yeah.
toward Pandora Hearts because I was like, I know nothing about it, and I was like, yeah, sure.
Dude, let's relive all my cringe teenage love, and I'll tell you about everything. It'll be great.
Yeah, it's like if I recommended like Air Gear for the book club or something. That is like, which maybe I'll do when I buy the out of print manga that's like volume that's like $600 to $1,000 or some shit.
Oh my god, you're right, Yam. We should add Jujutsu Kaisen to the poll so you have another excuse to get mad about it.
No.
Honestly, I would do it for the content.
No.
I won't be real.
No, we already had.
I don't want to read Jujutsu Kaisen.
No.
We just bring in Savvy and just have a fucking piss flinging
I'm
session.
not.
You guys don't.
This one.
You guys don't have to do anything. I'll just bring in Savvy, and me and him will just yell for like 2 hours, and then we'll be like, "And that was Jujutsu Kaisen." Bye.
God. But yeah.
All right. We'll let you guys know. We'll see what happens.
I'm gonna close the stream. Goodbye, everybody.